President Obama held his first summit with Chinese President Hu Jintao today. The leaders met in Beijing and promised to cooperate on a wide range of global issues, including the economic recovery. China has a huge vested interest in the American economy because it holds almost 25% of all foreign-owned U.S. debt. We owe the Chinese massive amounts of money. So what would happen if they immediately demanded payment? And why haven't they? Robert Krulwich always has a unique way of explaining things, and does so in tonight's Closer Look.
These are kids in Shanxi, China, reading out loud all together. It's kind of a reading exercise. But what I want you to notice is what this girl is wearing. Notice she's in a coat, zipped up, and so is he, and so is she. Many classrooms, look at the hats here in Chinese public schools, are not heated in winter. Yes, it would cost money to put in central heating, but the Chinese government has money. Oddly enough, a lot of that money is in America. When the Chinese ship products to the United States, we Americans buy their goods.
Hi. How's it going?
And we, of course, pay dollars. So China right now is sitting on a big sack of U.S. money, which they invest in America.
Well, let's say that the Chinese sack of dollars is $1.4 trillion thick.
That's a lot of money. So some Chinese are asking, why not take the profits that China has made in America and sell U.S. stocks and bonds and dollars and turn them into Chinese money so China can fix some of the problems they've got at home? So if China is going to change $1 trillion U.S. into Chinese money, that means China is going to sell $1 trillion and buy a huge amount of Chinese money. And moving that much wealth from one nation to the other will lower the value of the U.S. dollar, raise the value of Chinese money, with the unfortunate effect that then anything made in China becomes more expensive in America.
If they take $1.4 trillion out of the United States and pour it into China, the value of the Chinese currency is going to more than double. If it more than doubles, everything we buy from China will be more than twice the price.
And when the price of dolls and basketballs and everything goes up here and we buy less, what happens to all those people in China who have jobs making things for America? The Chinese government can't risk that. So for the moment, they can't take their money out of America. Not yet. Robert Krulwich, ABC News.
Here's a dirty little secret out there for you, something you probably should know about. I'm going to tell you more about this in just a minute, but first, listen to what President Bush had to say about the health of our nation's economy today.
Last month, our economy added 110,000 new jobs, and that's good news for people here in our country. It's an indicator that this economy is a vibrant and strong economy.
And that does, no doubt, sound nice, right? So what's the secret? The secret is that our economy is inflated with borrowed time and borrowed money. Never before have we owed so much to so many in this country. And folks, that ain't good. Let me show you what I mean. Let's talk about the national debt for starters, all right? Here it is. Let me see if I can even read this number. $9,050,048,079,280 with 70 cents. That's a huge number, as big as it's ever been. By the way, how much of that share is yours? Every one of us who lives in this country, that means owes $29,862 with 88 cents. So whatever you think you're worth, take that away from it. Now, by the way, who do we owe the money to? Come back here. Hey, go ahead, Ellie, change that for us. You know, there are countries that we really owe our shorts to, folks. Look at this. Brazil, $105 billion. We owe them. Brazil. This is oil exporters, you know, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Iran, $124 billion. Here's another one, the United Kingdom. We owe them $210 billion. But the big ones, China, $408 billion, and Japan. We, the United States of America, owe all these countries, but this is the mother lode right here, $611 billion. One man is literally going around screaming that this is just wrong. He should know he is our nation's top top accountant. His name is David Walker. He's the U.S. Comptroller General, which means that he's the head of the Government Accountability Office. They're the people who watch federal spending. And he says what he's seeing right now in our country scares him. Let's talk. David Walker, thanks so much for joining us. If a CEO of a company ran his organization this way, if he borrowed this way, wouldn't he be out on his keister?
Probably would be, but you know, the federal government has the ability to raise taxes. It has the ability to borrow at very attractive interest rates at the present point in time. And so far, we've been okay.
Yeah, but the problem is the borrowing. I mean, no administration in the history of the United States has ever borrowed as much as this administration has borrowed. By the way, the president this morning said he's happy with the economy, that things generally look up. Where's he wrong?
Well, first, he's not necessarily wrong with regard to the short term. That's part of the problem. We have a false sense of security today because economic growth is pretty strong, unemployment is low, interest rates are low, the markets have been doing good things of late, and so that gives us a false sense of security. Plus, deficits have come down for 3 years in a row. But what people don't realize is due to the retirement of the baby boom generation and out-of-control health care cost, we're headed for deficits and debt levels like this country has never seen, and we cannot sustain.
And you're the man who's been going around trying to get people to pay attention. My thanks to you for being here. Sounds an awful lot like a ticking time bomb. We'll have you back. Thank you, sir.
Good to talk to you, Rick. Take care.
Out-of-control spending and borrowing in Washington leading to a Chinese takeover of America? Well, this week, China threatening to use America's debt as a weapon against us. And we've spent $3.5 trillion since President Obama took office, and we owe the Chinese almost $800 billion. Is this reason enough for Washington to stop spending now? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox Let's Go in Focus with Bill Baldwin, Elizabeth McDonald, and Neil Weinberg, along with Mike Ozanian, Quentin Hardy, and John Rutledge. All right, Dr. John, let's start with you. You fear a Chinese takeover of America?
Of course there's a risk of being taken over, at least economically. You know, countries that spend too much money get taken over by countries that don't because the stock market falls, the income falls, inflation goes up, the currency goes down, and basically the power shifts in the other hands. And by the way, it's $2 trillion of our securities they have. They're very worried about U.S. inflation and about the currency. That's why they're taking moves on their portfolio.
I think we should be concerned. Here's the problem. You have a once great civilization decaying into populist consumerism in which self-indulgent voters vote themselves great programs and don't want to pay for them. It happened to Greece. It's happening to the U.S. If you contrast Asia, which is full of industrious and hardworking people, frugal people, obviously this is going to be China's century.
Hold on a second, Bill. We're hardworking. We are frugal right now. Perhaps we weren't in the early part of this decade, but we are now.
I think the savings rates in China, not only in China, but in Japan, Korea, and Singapore are much higher than in the U.S.
Right. Bill does make a very good point.
Well, you go back.
I'm an old guy. It depends on how you use the money you borrow. Unfortunately, now we're squandering the money we're borrowing from China. We're not using it to increase productive assets. We're plowing it into government jobs, Department of Education, Department of Labor, all these bureaucrats. Those programs are up. The budgets are $300 billion. It's not going into helping our economy.
Neil, a Chinese takeover?
I think this is, over the long term, a real concern. You know, when you borrow and borrow and borrow, whether you're a homeowner or you're a country, you can either go bankrupt, you can, in the case of a government, you can have to increase taxes, or you have to reduce spending. In any of these cases, what's ultimately going to happen is America will be more poor than it is now. China will become increasingly powerful in the world, and they will start dictating the terms, whether you're talking about foreign policy or economic terms or anything else. It's the same thing. If you owe the bank some money and you fail to pay it, the bank is going to start to dictate the terms.
China is eventually going to be the puppet master for the United States, according to Neil.
They felt pretty good at the beginning of the decline of the Roman Empire, too. Japan had 100 million people. China's got 1.5 billion people.
There is a huge bubble going on in China
so
right now.
China might be a house of cards deal.
The point that we miss is that the United States is China's biggest customer. That is our trump card, along with India, and we see it in Mexico and Indonesia.
Well, Mike,
there are other countries that are their customers, and we could start asking for,
if you look at the
more
polls,
what we deserve.
Americans themselves believe now that China is the world's leading economic power by 44%. United States only comes up at 27% by that poll. So Americans are beginning to wonder whether China's the leader.
Well, and you can't blame them, David. China's growth rate is much faster than ours. And as you just alluded to a moment ago, our unemployment rate is exceptionally high.
The United States is like Rome burning.
Right.